The floor was quiet except for the faint hum of LED panels and the occasional elevator chime. Jasmine Reed moved with practiced precision, her cart gliding over marble tiles like a dance she'd learned by heart. She kept her earbuds low jaws, always jazz and her eyes steady. In this building, invisibility wasn't a curse. It was Survival Tech Spire Inc. Was the kind of company where executive badges shimmered like metals and janitors became part of the background. Jasmine didn't mind, not on most days. Not until the elevator doors pinged open and chaos shattered the calm. A man in a gray suit staggered into the lobby, gripping his chest. Jasmine's mop clattered to the floor. She didn't hesitate. She had seen this before. Too many times. Man white, mid-50s, heavy-set collapsed against the glass wall with a sickening thud. His body twitched. His breath rattled. "Somebody call 911. The voice screamed. But Jasmine was already moving. She dropped to her knees beside him, checked his pulse, and tilted his head. Her voice was low, steady, professional muscle memory. "From a past life, sir. Can you hear me? You're having a heart attack? I need you to stay still." She started chest compressions. A woman in heels rushed forward. "HR, Meredith something." Pale face twisted in panic. "What are you doing?" "Step back. You can't. I'm a doctor," Jasmine snapped, not breaking rhythm. "Just stay still. Your janitorial staff. Can't touch him." Jasmine didn't stop. 2 compressions, rescue breaths. He doesn't have time for your permission. Behind her, gasps and phones recording. Security arrived, but hesitated. No one stepped in. Seconds stretched. Then finally a shallow gasp from the man. His eyes fluttered. Jasmine exhaled, trembling. "You're okay? Just breathe." The paramedics burst in moments later, and Jasmine stepped aside, sweat on her brow. Eyes fixed on nothing. They worked quickly, stabilizing him. One EMT gave her a look, not judgment, not approval, just ... surprise, when they wheeled him away. No one said thank you. Jasmine stood, brushing off her knees. Meredith stepped forward, arms crossed. "You're not allowed to make medical decisions in this building," she hissed, just low enough. "This will need to be reviewed." Jasmine stared at her, expression unreadable. "Then review it." She walked back to her cart, hands still shaking. Heart pounding, but her back straight. In the break room, she splashed water on her face. In the mirror, she saw not the cleaner in company overalls, but the woman she used to be. The woman she still was. Outside, whispers were already spreading. She picked up her mop, glancing once toward the executive suite. The man lived. That mattered. For now, but Jasmine knew how these things went. And in this building, saving a life might have just cost her everything. She exhaled slowly. Tomorrow would not be routine. By morning, the story had already mutated. She did what? I heard she was in med school once. No, someone said. She was military. Field medic, maybe? Either way, she's not certified. She's janitorial, right? Jasmine felt the eyes before she saw them. Pausing by the vending machines, she caught a group of mid-level engineers going silent as she passed. 2 of them glanced away. One stared openly. Another smiled awkwardly, as if unsure whether to thank her or report her. No one spoke to her. Directly? But the silence was dense with suspicion. That afternoon, Jasmine was called upstairs, not the ER this time, but HR's glass-walled office on the 22nd floor. She walked past interns and directors who suddenly looked interested in the... Janitor Meredith waited, perfectly still behind a desk that gleamed like it had never known dust. A second woman was there too, legal. Judging by the dull gray suit and unreadable eyes, Jasmine, Meredith said with a smile far too tight, "Thank you for coming." Jasmine sat down, folding her hands carefully in her lap. She didn't fidget, she didn't blink. "We've had several inquiries about the incident yesterday. Naturally, we want to ensure company policy was followed. We do understand the liability implications when non-medical personnel intervene in a health crisis on site." Jasmine said nothing. "So," Meredith continued, fingers steepled, "your resume states you have a background in cleaning services. But witnesses say you performed CPR with medical level precision. Can you explain that? Jasmine raised her chin. I was an ER doctor in Georgia. A pause. You, were. I held a license for 7 years. Lost it after moving here. Why wasn't that disclosed when you were hired? Because it wasn't relevant to the position I applied for. The legal woman scribbled something. Meredith frowned. Do you have any supporting documentation of your past experience? I do not with me. Meredith nodded like she already knew that as she left the room. Jasmine could almost feel the shape of their real thought pressing in the air behind her. She's not supposed to know that later. On her break, Jasmine stood, alone in the underground loading bay, watching the city blur beyond the fenced lot. Her reflection shimmered faintly in the building's tinted glass. Memories clawed their way back. Atlanta. A white surgeon's mistake, catastrophic, avoidable, covered up without consequence. Jasmine reported it. Her contract was terminated. 6 weeks later, no explanation. Licensing board delays. Applications unanswered. That was the first time she realized being a black doctor didn't always protect you. Sometimes it made you a threat. Credentials don't clean floors. One hospital admin had sneered when she asked for a reference. She'd walked out without another word. And now, here she was again. Judged not by what she knew, but what she looked like again. She leaned against the wall, eyes closed. The ache in her chest wasn't fear. Not anymore. It was something colder, more permanent. She heard footsteps, turned and saw Preston Vance's assistant walking past, coffee in hand. The CEO was back in the building, alive. He hadn't said a word. Jasmine watched the man disappear into the elevators. No nod, no glance. She picked up her mop again, this time slower. If the company thought this would fade, they hadn't learned who she was, not yet, and they hadn't met the girl who'd seen everything. The email arrived with no subject line, just a meeting link and a 10 a.m. timestamp. No one explained what it was about, but Jasmine already knew. The HR conference room smelled like filtered air and expensive carpet. Meredith didn't offer her a seat this time. She stood beside the legal advisor, posture stiff, words clipped and rehearsed. This is a formal notice, Jasmine, Meredith began, sliding a printed document across the glass table. While your intentions during the medical incident may have been well-meaning, your actions were outside the designated responsibilities of your role. The phrasing was surgical. Potential liability, unapproved intervention, breach of company safety protocol. Jasmine read it once. Then again, there was no mention of saving a life. Oh, gratitude. Just policy, liability, and a warning in fine print. She signed it. Back in the supply room, she changed into her coveralls like she was shedding skin. No one met her eyes in the hallway anymore, not since word spread about the HR warning. Conversations stopped when she entered rooms. Even her floor supervisor, who once joked with her daily, now simply nodded and walked away. The silence didn't hurt as much as the quiet erasure, like she'd crossed a line by reminding them she was more than the uniform. That evening, after her shift, she sat on the fire escape of her Harlem walk-up. Phone pressed to her ear, the metal still warm from the day's sun. Wait, they reprimanded you? Her sister Usha's voice crackled through. Formally, in writing. 4. Saving someone's life? Technically, Jasmine said softly, for doing a job I wasn't hired to do. Asha cursed under her breath. It's like they want you to be invisible until they don't. Jasmine smiled bitterly. Sounds about right. The air between them quieted. Jasmine looked out across the rooftops, blinking against the dusk. Do you remember that hospital in Marietta? She said suddenly. Asha paused. The one with the residency chair who called you? What was it? Surprisingly articulate. Jasmine laughed, once. Yeah, after I led a trauma rotation. She fell silent again. The memories were stacked like old charts each, one marked with disbelief, diminished praise, or doors politely closed. The research paper her name was left off of, the attending who always asked her to fetch coffee and ever her white peers. The job offers that evaporated once they met in person, a medical board panel that raised their eyebrows when she spoke, like her knowledge came from imitation, not education. "They didn't revoke my license," she murmured, "but they made sure no one wanted to hire me after." "And now you're mopping floors for a man whose life you saved?" Asha said, voice shaking. "Who hasn't even looked me in the eye?" Jasmine added. They sat in silence, two sisters divided by miles, but bonded by something heavier. "I'm tired, Ash," Jasmine said, swallowing it all just to survive. "You don't have to swallow it anymore." Jasmine looked up at the darkening sky, the city pulsing below her. Somewhere inside that building, Preston Vance walked the halls, breathing because of her hands. And somewhere else, someone had noticed, watched everything unfold. The silence wouldn't last, not forever. Preston Vance returned on a Monday. No grand speech, no company-wide memo, just a quiet reappearance, hair slightly grayer, tie slightly looser, like nothing had happened. Jasmine noticed before anyone said a word. The executive suites lights were on earlier than usual. Security had increased. There were whispers again, but this time hushed with reverence. "Back like a champ. He looks good, all things considered." Corporate med team handled it fast. "Lucky guy." The word stung more than she expected. Lucky. A company-wide email went out later that morning. "We are grateful for the swift action taken by on-site personnel and our corporate medical responders." No names, no details. Just a sterile erasure. Like she'd never been there. Like her hands hadn't pressed the rhythm of life back into his chest. That afternoon, she was asked to attend a mandatory diversity and inclusion seminar. The irony settled in her stomach like rust. She sat at the back of the sleek conference room unnoticed. Meredith stood at the front, guiding the session with the polish of someone reading from a script. "We believe every employee deserves to feel seen, heard, and valued," she intoned, clicking to a slide with stock photos of smiling, multicultural co-workers. Jasmine's jaw clenched. Visibility wasn't just the absence of light, it was the deliberate dimming of it. Afterward, Jasmine lingered by the elevators, letting the crowd thin. That's when she noticed her, the intern. Petite, curly-haired, barely 20-something, holding her ID badge awkwardly like it didn't belong. She glanced at Jasmine, hesitated, then stepped closer. "Ms. Reed?" she said quietly. "Ken." "I'll talk to you for a second." Jasmine blinked. "No one used her name here. I'm Maya," the girl added, a nervous glance around. I saw what happened that day with Mr. Vance." Jasmine didn't reply. "I was coming off the elevator. I saw you. They said it was medical staff who helped him, but it wasn't. It was you."
Sure was.
Truth. Simple and raw. Jasmine studied the girl. Maya looked young, but not naive. Her voice didn't shake with pity. It carried something else. Conviction. "I didn't know what to do," Maya continued. "But if you ever need someone to back you up, I'm here. I mean it." For a moment, Jasmine didn't answer. The hallway was quiet, sterile, humming faintly. The silence that had suffocated her for weeks cracked, just slightly. "Thank you," she said softly. Maya nodded, eyes searching Jasmine's face. "They're trying to bury it. But they can't erase what I saw." As Maya walked away, Jasmine leaned against the cool metal of the elevator doors. Heart racing, not with fear this time, but something sharp and stirring. Maybe invisibility wasn't permanent. Maybe the truth just needed a witness. And somewhere behind those mirrored walls, a story was waiting to break through. The video hit the internet on a Tuesday morning. Grainy security footage, no sound. Just the sterile elevator lobby. Jasmine dropping to her knees beside Preston Vance's collapsing body. Her movements precise, focused. Hands pumping his chest, tilt, breath, compress. A blur of urgency, then dash life. Within hours, it was everywhere. She's a janitor, but clearly trained. Hero ignored to protect a company's image. Hashtag Jasmine saved him. Hashtag let her be seen. Jasmine learned about it from a text Usha, of course. Did you leak it? No, but she knew who had. By noon, her name was trending. Reporters called the front desk. An online petition demanded her recognition. Civil rights blogs dug up her Georgia medical license, her spotless record, her unexplained departure. Inside Texpire, it was like a bomb had gone off. Meredith summoned her immediately. "Jasmine," she said, eyes tight. "This has become complicated." Jasmine didn't respond. "We'd like to offer you a promotion, transition into a health and safety liaison role. Better hours, benefits, a formal title." Jasmine stared at her. "And what happens to the investigation you open? That would quietly close? And the reprimand sealed off the record?" Jasmine didn't blink. "You think I did this for a title? We were trying to resolve this in a way that protects everyone involved. I saved a man's life, and you want to contain that." Meredith shifted in her seat. "The media storm will fade. It always does." Jasmine stood. "Not this time." Later that night, her apartment buzzer rang. A woman stood in the hallway, holding a leather satchel and a calm, practiced smile. "Ms. Reed." "I'm Carmen Vega, Civil Rights Legal Initiative." "May I come in?" Jasmine stepped aside. Carmen settled into the couch like she'd done this 100 times. Her voice was steady, but her eyes burned with quiet fire. "We've seen this before. Silence, containment, power shuffling. They'll reframe you as emotional, difficult, or unqualified to avoid accountability. They've already started. You were reprimanded for saving a life. That's more than neglect, it's discrimination under public interest law." Jasmine folded her arms, unsure. "I never wanted this. I just ... acted. And that's what scares them," Carmen said gently. "You broke their narrative. You weren't supposed to know more. You weren't supposed to act braver. You weren't supposed to matter." Jasmine's throat tightened. "I spent years shrinking myself, quiet enough to be safe, invisible enough to survive." Carmen leaned forward. "No more quiet. They made you invisible. Let us help you make them see you." Jasmine met her gaze. Her voice didn't tremble this time. "What does that look like?" "Visibility, legal pressure, public reckoning." "They just bury me deeper." "Not if you stand up first." Jasmine exhaled. Deep, long. Outside, sirens hummed. Inside, something rooted in her chest began to loosen. She had been erased, minimized, managed, but not anymore. This wasn't just about her. It was about every time. Someone like her had to choose between dignity and silence. She nodded once. "Let's begin." The conference room had been transformed into a tribunal. White walls suddenly. Sterile, blinds drawn tight, corporate art replaced with thick binders and folded nameplates. This wasn't a courtroom, but it might as well have been. The panel of executives sat at one end of the long oak table. Jasmine sat at the other, flanked by Carmen Vega on one side. Her silence taut and coiled, and a company mediator on the other, smiling. Too much, as if smiles softened harm. Preston Vance entered late. He didn't make eye contact. The air felt leaden as the proceedings began. HR presented first slides, timelines, policy bullet points. They spoke of protocol breaches, internal reviews, and public misperception. They used her name sparingly. She was a subject, not a human. Then it was Jasmine's turn. She rose slowly, the room going still. Her voice was clear. "My name is Dr. Jasmine Reed," she began. "You call me Jasmine? Refer to me as a custodian? But I was a licensed ER doctor for 7 years before I ever held a mop?" Number one interrupted. "I saved a man's life in this building. I did what your staff couldn't or wouldn't. And instead of thanks, I was reprimanded, erased from the record, and asked to stay quiet." Her hands tightened on the table's edge. "I didn't lose my license because I was unqualified. Lost it because I reported a white surgeon who killed a black patient by ignoring his symptoms. After that, the system swallowed me whole. Applications disappeared. Calls stopped coming. So I cleaned buildings to survive, but I never stopped being a doctor." She turned to Ward Preston, who sat motionless, unreadable. "You walked past me every day. Never once looked at me. I saved your life, and you said nothing. Your silence speaks louder than any company memo." The room was silent. Not even the air vents dared to hum. Then Maya stepped forward, clutching a single sheet of paper. "I was there," she said. "I saw Jasmine Dr. Reed save Mr. Vance's life. No hesitation. No equipment. Just skill. What I saw was a professional. But this company tried to erase her because she doesn't look like what you think a professional should be." She paused, her voice trembling. "You say diversity in trainings, but when it shows up in real life, you call it a liability." Panel shifted uncomfortably. Meredith's jaw was locked tight. No rebuttal came. Carmen closed her folder with a deliberate snap. "The public knows. The media knows. You can either acknowledge the harm or try to outlast the outrage, but I promise you this will not disappear." Stood without a word. He looked at Jasmine, then just for a second. A flicker of recognition, or shame, or something unspoken, and then he walked out. No goodbye. No defense, just the soft thud of retreating footsteps echoing through polished marble. The mediator cleared her throat, fumbling for procedure. But Jasmine had already sat down, eyes steady. Something had shifted. She hadn't won, not yet. But the silence had finally been broken. The truth had a voice now, and it would not be quieted again. It arrived on a gray morning, tucked inside a plain white envelope with no return address. Jasmine found it wedged between bills and circulars, almost thrown out with the junk mail. The paper was stiff, official. The letterhead unmistakable. Georgia Composite Medical Board, License Reinstatement, Dr. Jasmine Reed. MD, her breath caught. She read it once, then again. Fingers trembling as if the words might dissolve if held too tightly. Following a formal review and external appeal prompted by recent public and legal inquiry, your license has been reinstated effective immediately. Welcome back, Dr. Reed. Tears welled quietly. No dramatic sob, no gasp, just a silent release, long overdue. The story had made waves. News outlets had picked it up. Janitor saves CEO, turns out she's a doctor. Headlines churned out sound bites. Commentators debated race, bias, systemic injustice. But for Jasmine, it was never about headlines. It was about being whole again. Still, she didn't rush back into prestige. She declined interviews. She ignored sponsorship deals. Instead, she walked past midtown hospitals and shiny private practices and down into the neighborhoods that once raised her. A month later, she stood in front of the worn brick of Lenox Hill Community Clinic, funded by a coalition of health equity groups and grassroots donors stirred by her story. The sign was old. The linoleum inside cracked. But the waiting room chairs were full. Jasmine stood in the locker room, tying her surgical scrubs, white coat still folded on the bench beside her. The air smelled of antiseptic and possibility. She scrubbed in slowly, methodically, her hands remembering every motion. Behind her, a nurse peeked in. "Dr. Reed. Exam room 2 is prepped." The name still startled her. "Dr. Reed," she gave a quiet nod. "Be right there." Through the glass partition, she saw the patients lined up outside the building. A young boy with asthma. An elderly man gripping a worn cane. A single mother holding her daughter's hand. No suspicion in their eyes. No judgment. Just need. And trust. She opened the door. The clinic staff moved with quiet respect. No whispers. No camera flashes. Just the rhythm of real work charts, check-ins. Care. In exam room 2, she greeted her first patient, Mrs. Evelyn Hart, 73, diabetic.
"My blood pressure high."
"Hi, I'm Dr. Reed," she said softly, taking her hand. "How are we feeling today?" The older woman smiled. "Better now, baby. Heard you were the one they tried to hide?" Jasmine chuckled gently. "Not anymore." After the visit, she paused in the hallway. Maya stood at the front desk, now an official intern for the clinic. She glanced up and grinned. "They're lining up for you," she said, eyes twinkling. Jasmine smiled back. "They're not lining up for me. They're lining up for care. They trust you to give it." Jasmine glanced out the window. The city pulsed beyond the glass, indifferent, relentless but no longer capable of shrinking her. Inside, she belonged. Not as a symbol, not as a story, as a doctor. That night she returned to her small apartment, the reinstatement letter now framed above her kitchen table. Her mop and uniform still hung in the closet, untouched. She didn't throw them away. They were part of her story, just not the whole story. As she settled into bed, the city hummed around her. She closed her eyes, the last words she'd spoken at the hearing echoing back. I am a doctor. And I don't need your permission to be one. Now, finally, no one could take that away. And in the morning, she'd return to the clinic, to heal, to be seen. Disable Panley, freely, fully. Because this time, she wasn't asking, she was.